Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Raw. The main event, as well as the entire show, has been brought to you by THQ, and I have to say, this has been a very, very eventful show. And, what? Wait a minute. Chris Jericho, I thought he was injured. Well, for those of you that didn't catch it, last time we had a Super Show, Chris Jericho was injured, and he's here. I thought he was injured. Well, okay, well, I guess Chris Jericho's here. So, for those of you that don't know, Chris Jericho, he was injured at the hands of the Big Boss Man, of whom Chris Jericho was having problems with at the time, and Chris Jericho is here. I will say one thing about Chris Jericho is that Chris Jericho, as you all know, is a world-class athlete. I mean, he's wrestled in Mexico, he's wrestled in Japan, and he's wrestled in Extreme Championship Wrestling. He's also wrestled in World Championship Wrestling, as well as the World Wrestling Federation. So this guy has done it all. He's wrestled everywhere, and, you know, he's been a world champion. I mean, mainly in, I think Japan is where he had his greatest success so far, but nonetheless, his opponent is Stone Cold Steve Austin. So Austin is going to try to look back or try to, you know, gain some momentum for him if he is to have any shot at possibly winning the championship down the road for him, and for Chris Jericho, this is his biggest opportunity to take down an already established superstar in Stone Cold Steve Austin. So for him, I mean, this is huge for him and Steve Austin, as Austin is still, you know, the greatest of all time, as Chris Jericho is on his way to becoming the greatest of all time. So for Austin and Chris Jericho, this is their big opportunity, you know, to shine. And it's pretty much, it is what it is, you know. I mean, these two guys are two of the most popular at what they do. But with that said, let's start right now. Alright, match underway, as, of course, we all know that Chris Jericho is coming off an injury, so I would think that Steve Austin would try to go after it in this match. Oh, but not if Chris Jericho has anything to say about it. Nice move by Jericho with that flying forearm. Oh, and then a rake in the eyes right to Austin. A sleeper slam on to Austin. A back suplex on to Austin. I would think that the Big Boss Man would be somewhere around here watching this, probably in disbelief that Chris Jericho is back. But for Chris Jericho, as much as he would love to get his hands on the Big Boss Man, he's going to have to keep his emotions in check, especially against Steve Austin. You know, considering that Steve Austin, he's been in this position before. I mean, he's been in so many big matches. You know, he hardly ever loses focus in a match, does Austin. A back suplex on to Austin. And elbow right to the back of the neck of Austin. And whip into the ropes, but nothing much happened after that. A backbreaker on to Austin. And so far, Chris Jericho controlling the pace of this match. And then whipped into the corner was Chris Jericho, and then a clothesline onto Chris Jericho. A side headlock takedown onto Steve Austin. A Northern Light suplex on Austin. And a takedown onto Chris Jericho. And a back body drop that sends Austin over the top rope and onto the floor. And now what's Chris Jericho going to do? Whoa! Nice lion salt onto Steve Austin. That was an incredible move by Chris Jericho. And a huge right hand onto Chris Jericho. Now, of course, this is a normal match, so this match has to get back in the ring. And it does, so we're back in. And then whipped once again into the corner, and then a clothesline to follow it up onto Chris Jericho. And out goes Chris Jericho. This time Austin sends him over the top rope and out. And then a flying forearm onto Austin on the outside. Thrown back in the ring is Austin. Alright, now both men are back in. Oh, this time a back body drop onto Chris Jericho. And then a bulldog onto Chris Jericho. And then Austin, for some reason, leaves the ring, as does Chris Jericho. And whipped into the steps was Chris Jericho, as Austin is going to now take down that announce table. Although Chris Jericho not going to take too kindly to that, as he whips Austin into the steps and ricochets off the post was Austin's head. And now, wait a minute. Powerbomb onto Chris Jericho. I mean, his back has got to be killing him. I mean, there's not much give in that floor, man. And a leg sweep onto Jericho. And thrown outside the ring is Jericho. And Jericho throws him in the ring. And, ooh, and then a kick right to the head of Steve Austin. Although Steve Austin takes him down from off the... Wait a minute. A gut wrench suplex onto Chris Jericho. And a float over neck breaker onto Austin. I mean, of course, we all know that his neck is not exactly at 100% like it used to be back in the day. Alright, now all the competitors are back in. And then a slap across the head of Steve Austin. And then whipped into the corner was Steve Austin. And a nice sleeper slam reversal on Austin. And now just kicking the face of Austin is Jericho. And then kicking him right in the back is Jericho. A flying forearm on Austin once again. I mean, so far, this match has been evenly matched. Elbow right to the head of Jericho. And now Austin just stomping a mud hole into Chris Jericho. And now, wait, what's Austin doing here? Wait a minute! Is he doing this? Wow! Steve Austin is using Chris Jericho's own move against him. And let's see if Chris Jericho can get out of this move. And, well, I'll be damned. Stone Cold just beat Chris Jericho with his own move. I mean, how insane is that? So, congratulations to Steve Austin, as he has beaten Chris Jericho. I mean, this is just insane, folks. I will say that. Well, for Stone Cold Steve Austin, it'll definitely help him get back in the ranks for top contenders in the world. But, yeah, I mean, that was a very great match. I mean, the finish was nothing that I expected, but other than that, very good match. Until then, stay tuned for more of Raw next time. And this is your host, Henri Jacobsen, signing off saying goodbye. And stay tuned for more. Alright. Have a good one, ladies and gentlemen.